Hey there, welcome to FOXSOUL's Black Report. This is the space where we bring you Black America's headline news, views, and opinions. I'm Brooke.
I'm Demi.
And I'm Melissa. Sorry, Romeo is out today. On today's report, the CDC says that it is safe for vaccinated people to unmask outdoors. A new study says that Black doctors in the U.S. has changed little in 120 years. Justice Department opens police probe after Breonna Taylor death, and Texas Public Defender's Office seeks posthumous pardon for George Floyd.
We're going to break down how the Biden administration plans to feed 30 million kids from low-income families this summer. One state is losing a congressional seat for the first time in history, and we remember South Africa's Freedom Day.
A judge dismisses the lawsuit of a man who alleged molestation by Michael Jackson. New Orleans finalizes votes to replace Representative Cedric Richmond. The oldest known whiskey is soon to be up for auction, and Nancy Pelosi swears in the first Black U.S. House Sergeant at Arms.
We have all that and so much more. This is Our Voice and Our Truth, so let's talk about it.
To me, this reeks of conflict of interest.
Do we know if he actually waved a gun? We only hear one side of the story.
This just really did make me feel good that the justice system did what they needed to.
So we're going to keep following this story, and we will have the latest for you. All right, here are your headlines for the day. We have new CDC guidance regarding wearing masks outdoors if you're fully vaccinated against COVID-19. The agency says fully vaccinated people do not have to wear masks outdoors except in certain crowded settings and venues. There's more. According to the CDC, fully vaccinated people do not need to wear masks during small outdoor gatherings, even if there's a mixture of vaccinated and unvaccinated people. CDC Director Rochelle Walensky outlined this new guidance during a White House press conference Tuesday, with the president using this as an opportunity to encourage people to get vaccinated. More than 42% of Americans have received at least one vaccine dose. Nearly 30% of those people have been fully vaccinated. And just for the record, fully vaccinated, per the CDC, means 2 weeks after your second dose, if you got one of the mRNA vaccines, or 2 weeks after your Johnson & Johnson vaccine. A couple other things I thought were interesting in this. You can visit with other fully vaccinated people indoors with unvaccinated people, like children from a single household who are considered at low risk for severe COVID-19 disease. These are both indoors without wearing masks or physical distancing. Still avoid large indoor gatherings. And if you go to a large outdoor gathering like a concert, you should still mask up. And everyone should still wear masks in indoor public spaces. I saw a meme that said, and it's just sad, but it said Atlanta is celebrating everybody else, like meeting them where they are.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know about you two, but I feel like this is about to create some very real confusion. I mean, imagine this, whenever we go out to restaurants, in the past, when we wanted to get a cocktail, we were asked for proof of age, license. So now what are we going to do? Are we going to provide proof of vaccination? Is that what's going to be required to be outside at this point? Like, it's really interesting.
Well, while we talk about confusion, there was a really popular tweet that made its way around. Most of you probably have seen it. It was on all of the blog sites where recording artist that goes by the name of Tory Lanez encouraged his 2.5 million followers just alone on Twitter. He says, I don't care what these other celeb influencers are telling you to do. I personally would not get the vaccine. And it's like, dude, we're trying to make progress here. Then you have someone like that pulling us all the way back. But back to the topic at hand, even though I am half vaccinated, once I am fully vaccinated, I still feel like I'm going to want to wear, not even still feel like, I know for sure that I'm still going to wear my mask in certain areas, with people that I don't really know. Because I don't know, I feel like it's like my safety net. It feels like a jacket at this point, right? Like my mask is like also my purse, that I just can't go anywhere without it. So I can't see myself just going in everywhere, just being like, oh, I'm vaccinated. Like, I still am going to have my mask nearby for sure.
Tory Lanez, I don't even understand him making that kind of comment, especially since Canada, specifically Toronto, is on their 4th lockdown right now. People are losing their minds. Besides their income, they're losing their minds. There is a very real mental health crisis happening in, my hometown, and encouraging people not to get vaccinated once it is made available to them is beyond irresponsible.
Especially, other, like he's a Canadian, but he's living in America. And so, Black Americans are disproportionately affected by this virus. And so the idea of encouraging them to do something or to not do something that could help save their lives, their families' lives, yeah, it's shocking. But he's also currently facing trial for an allegation of shooting a woman in her feet.
Yeah.
So
he should focus on that.
No, I mean, I just, again, it's an allegation legally.
Yes.
But
he
should be taking advice.
He shouldn't be like the moral code that we follow, correct? Exactly. All right. Well, a UCLA study published on Monday found that the proportion of physicians who are Black in the United States has increased by only 4 percentage points over the past 120 years, and that share of doctors who are Black men remains unchanged since 1940. The research also spotlights a significant income gap between white and Black male physicians, a disparity that could reflect a combination of pay discrimination and unequal access for physicians to pursue careers in more lucrative specialties, according to the study's author, Dr. Dan Lee. Lee is an assistant professor of medicine at the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA. He stated that these findings demonstrate how slow progress has been and how far and fast we have to go if we care about the diversity of the physician workforce and the health benefits such diversity brings to patients, particularly minority patients. Now, medicine has never been immune to racism. The reality is that a lot of, medical experimentation was done on Black bodies in order to ensure the safety for white patients. Slavery and the American medical profession were extremely codependent on each other, in order for the two to function.
Modern gynecology, and where that came from.
Exactly, and how modern is gynecology when we think about, when we think about algorithms, when we think about the test, methods and calculations that doctors use currently, they are directly related to antiquated algorithms and calculations that were based on notions such as Black people have a smaller lung capacity or enlarged hearts.
Higher pain tolerance.
Higher pain tolerance. We heard a lot of these things said in the Derek Chauvin trial, insinuated in this trial. And that's what made it so repulsive, is that these kinds of stereotypes are continuing to be perpetuated, and it results in people dying in hospitals. We call the cops when we need help. We go to the doctor when we need medical services, and we are literally putting our lives in the hands of people that are either don't care, apathetic, or are uneducated based on current medical standards.
I think, it's clear at this point that you can't simply say, this is how it is, and, this hasn't happened. You have to be actively, when it comes to someone who is non-Black, you have to be actively working on your biases, right? And also, people have to be actively recruiting and uplifting, and there's so many different aspects, so many different reasons why the number of Black doctors, the percentage, has barely changed in more than a century.
Well, the reason why we need more Black doctors is because Black doctors are in the underserved and Black communities that we go to receive service. I saw a report that said Black patients have a better outcome when they see Black physicians. And so a lot of doctors put their lives on the line, and a lot of doctors were sick and actually died during COVID-19. A lot of just doctors overall. But so if we have doctors that are losing their lives to a life-changing, deadly pandemic, that means that we're also losing Black doctors. So we definitely need more doctors to come to the forefront and, make sure we can, Black women like myself, I always talk about, labor being something that I want to have children, but I'm afraid of having children because the labor process is scary for me. Having a Black doctor, someone who understands my body and things that goes on inside of my body would make me feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, we also need Black doctors to the pay, disparity to,
Absolutely.
Basically be changed as well.
Absolutely. Okay, so the Justice Department is opening a sweeping probe into policing in Louisville, Kentucky over the March 2020 death of Breonna Taylor, who was shot to death by police during a raid at her home. Attorney General Merrick Garland made the announcement on Monday. Now, this will be the second probe into a law enforcement agency by the Biden administration in a week. You recall Garland also made an investigation into the tactics of the police in Minneapolis following the death of George Floyd. The Attorney General, he said there is not yet equal justice under the law and promised to bring a critical eye to racism and legal issues when he took on the job. Only a few investigations were opened during the Trump administration. Now, the investigation announced Monday is into the Louisville Jefferson County Metro Government and the Louisville Metro Police Department. It's known as a pattern or practice, examining whether there is a pattern or practice of unconstitutional or unlawful policing, and will be a more sweeping review of the entire police department. So much on this, we just don't even have enough time. But I mean, calling out the elephant in the room, there hasn't been enough, in my perfectly honest opinion, to show this family that they care about the way and that Breonna Taylor died. So, of course, we know one police officer was fired. None have been arrested, indicted, or on trial. But Merrick Garland, he's taking things up a notch, as I just told you. So he said that if there's reasonable cause to believe there's a pattern of practice, like I told you, of unconstitutional or statutory violations, he said this issue will publicly report. So pretty much, if they find out that there was something unconstitutional that happens, they're going to report it publicly of what they come up with. So I like that he is taking it up another notch. I mean, so much into this. I just don't even have enough time. He says that they're going to aim to work with the city and the police department to arrive at a set of mutually agreeable steps that they can take to correct and prevent unlawful patterns or practices. And I like that. He's like, hey, we're not just going to say that we're going to do some things. These are the steps that I'm going to take, and we're going to let you know the steps that we're going to take, and we're going to let you know what we come up with, our findings. I love it.
Transparency is really important at this. No, it's not just important. It's imperative at this point. And Louisville mayor and the Kentucky governor, Andy Beshear, they're both open and welcoming this DOJ investigation. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really wondering where Daniel Cameron's fitting into this whole situation.
For me, obviously, just like what's happening, their investigation in Minneapolis, this could mean widespread change within the police department. And you would just think, at the very base of this, not even going deeply into the case, the facts of this is that a woman was shot and killed during a botched police raid. And so at the very least, you want the feds to go in any situation like that and figure out if that sort of procedure is the norm. Because if it is, that's a way bigger problem than we thought we had. Also, let's go into it a little bit. That botched police raid included police officers busting into the home of an innocent woman in the middle of the night and, by their words, blindly shooting. And then it ended in them arresting another innocent person after they had killed his girlfriend. And so knowing just even that, and those are simply the facts of the case, you absolutely want the federal government to go in and make sure this isn't considered normal behavior in this police department.
Yeah, I think that these two DOJ probes into the Minneapolis Police Department and also the Louisville Police Department is really going to be the test for Merrick Garland, to see, just to kind of see how the Department of Justice is going to run itself, and the transparency that we're going to be looking for from the reports that come from this investigation. I think that this is going to define him very, very early on as Attorney General.
Right.
Okay, Soulmates, we do have an update for you out of Elizabeth City, North Carolina, in the case of Andrew Brown Jr. He is the 42-year-old black man who was shot and killed by a sheriff's deputy. NBC News is reporting his family says he was shot 5 times, including once in the back of the head. Now, they want to know why the Pasquotank County Sheriff's deputies used deadly force while serving an arrest warrant on felony drug charges. The family says forensic pathologist Dr. Brent Hall found Brown was shot 4 times in the right arm and once squarely in the back of his head. And this is part of an independent autopsy. Hall's report shows the headshot was fired from what is being quoted as an intermediate range and penetrated Brown's skull and brain. The report confirms state death certificate findings. It showed Brown was shot 5 times, once in the head and 4 other times in the right shoulder, twice in the upper right arm, and once more around his right elbow. The FBI has also confirmed they are investigating. The family right now is very publicly calling what they have seen that the rest of us have not seen an execution.
Yes.
And let me break down just a little bit of what we know, what's being reported. The local news outlet, the Virginia news outlet, Wavy 10's Jason Marks is actually reporting this. This is directly from him. He says the family watched the video 10 to 20 times. Attorneys now describe the 20-second video as Brown was in the driveway. The sheriff truck blocked the driveway. His hands were on the steering wheel. Deputies ran up to the car shooting. He finally tries to get away. They were shooting at him before he drove out of the driveway. He was trying to drive away from being shot. He was also avoiding officers with his car. And that's also really important, the idea that the attorneys believe he was not using his car as a weapon. And deputies were still shooting at him using an AR rifle and several assault rifles. They were still shooting after he crashed into a tree. And so those are the reports from the local news outlet there. And that's what the family is reporting that they saw. And it's, obviously it's
they
upsetting.
sound like cowboys. They sound like children playing a game of cowboys and Indians. And the unfortunate part is that it's a real life game and a black man lost his life. It sounds like an execution. All we have to do is listen to the deduction, to the report from the medical examiner. The shot that hit his head, the back of his head from a distance. They were blindly shooting. They were just trying to riddle the car full of bullets. They were trying to murder him. It's unbelievable how blatant it is these days.
So I'm not sure if you guys get a chance to see the press conference that Ben Crump held this morning, where his son was there and all of their lawyers as well. And they actually showed the diagram. It felt very much so when we were watching Derek Chauvin's murder trial, where they gave diagrams and showed exactly everything. It was very visual. Ben Crump showed where all of the bullets landed on him, and his son came up and spoke and was kind of like, I told you guys that this was an execution, and no one really wanted to believe me. Now you get to see, where my father was shot at. Now you guys are starting to understand where I'm coming from. And the reality of this is that someone put this on Twitter and they said if this was black on black crime, that whoever was the shooter, they would have put in jail. They would have been held accountable. And so everyone is saying, let's have this same energy. Let's keep the same energy when it comes to these police officers who do the wrong thing.